If you don't know where you're at right now or what should you focus on with your life, this video is for you. This is Ella, and you're watching Easy Life with Ella. Okay, so U.S. President Joe Biden canceled a planned trip on Tuesday and called mayors in three Florida cities to assure them federal support is ready to deploy food, fuel, and shelter. A total of 29 emergency shelters have already been set up by FEMA personnel sent to the state on Monday. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, has declared a state of emergencies and urged residents to prepare. He warned of broad impacts throughout the state and said the weather system brought with it a risk of a dangerous storm surge, heavy rainfall, flash flooding, strong winds, and hazardous sea and isolated tornadic activities. Flooding is predicted for much of the Florida midweek, and then heavy rainfall is possible for the southeast of the U.S. later this week. Hurricane Ian heading towards Florida as expert warns this is no joke. Wow, this is huge. Hurricane Ian is swirling towards Florida after making landfall in Cuba as a powerful Category 3 storm, and it could hit the U.S. state with a wind speed of up to 140 miles. And evacuation orders have been issued for over 300,000 people in Tampa Bay along Florida west coast amid fears the hurricane could be upgraded to a Category 4 system as it intensifies while crossing the Gulf warm waters. The storm made landfall early on Tuesday in Cuba, Pinar del Rio province, while the U.S. National Hurricane Center said the island's west coast could see as much of 14 feet of storm surge. Cuba is expecting extreme hurricane force winds, also life-threatening storm surge and heavy rainfall. Hurricane Center Senior Specialist Daniel Brown told the Associated Press officials set up 55 shelters, rushed in emergency personnel, and took steps to protect crops in Cuba's main tobacco growing region. After passing over Cuba, Ian is forecast to reach Florida as early as Wednesdays as a Category 4 storm. Russia will not resume gas supplies to Europe until sanctions lift, says Moscow. Russia will not resume in full gas supplies to Europe until the West lifts its sanctions against Moscow. The Kremlin said, as concern over Russian gas supplies continue to drive up energy prices. Speaking to journalists on Monday, the Kremlin spokesperson blamed sanctions introduced against our country by Western countries, including Germany and the UK, for Russia's failure to deliver gas through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline. Other reasons that would cause problems with the pumping don't exist. Peskov added that Russia's full resumption of gas supplies via Nord Stream 1 was undoubtedly dependent on whether the West would lift its sanction on Moscow. It is these sanctions imposed by the Western states that have brought the situation to what we see now. Moscow's statements on Monday are the clearest indication, yet Russia intends to force the EU to lift sanctions imposed against Moscow over its invasion of Ukraine in exchange for Russia restarting its gas deliveries. The leading Russian energy supplies Gazprom announced on Friday evening that a suspension of gas supplies heading westwards through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline would be extended indefinitely, citing malfunctions on a turbine along the pipeline. After failing to achieve most of its military objectives in Ukraine, analysts believe that Kremlin is hoping record energy prices paired with possible food shortage this winter will push Europe to strong-arm Ukraine into a truce on Moscow terms. Russian officials have been eager to point to growing anger in the EU over rising prices, with Peskov on Monday saying it was clear that life was getting worse for people, businessmen, and companies in Europe. Of course, ordinary people in this country will have more and more questions for their leader, he says. Um, One of two men sought in Canada stabbing attack is found dead. Damon Sanderson's body was found on the James Smith Cree Nation. His injuries are not believed to be self-inflicted. The search continued for Miles Sanderson, his brother. One of two suspects is stabbing attacks in Canada that killed 10 people has been found dead, police says Monday. The body of Damon Sanderson, 31, was found on the James Smith Cree Nation in Saskatchewan at 11:30 a.m., said Assistant Commissioner Rhonda Blackmore, commanding officer of the Royal Canada Mounted Police. Sanderson and Miles Sanderson, his brother, were named as suspects in the stabbing death of 10 people that occurred Sunday. Miles Sanderson, 30, may be injured, but that has not been confirmed, Blackmore said at a news conference. We do want the public to know that as there is a possibility he may seek medication attention. Blackmore said, it does not mean that he is not still dangerous. Damon Sanderson had visible injuries that are not believed to have been self-inflicted, Blackmore said. A cause of death will be determined later, she said. His body was found outdoors in a heavily grassed area in proximity to a house that was being examined, Blackmore said. Asked at Monday's news conference whether Miles Sanderson is suspect in his brother's death, Blackmore said investigators could not say. We haven't confirmed that. We can't say one way or the other if Miles was involved in the death of Damon, she said. It is an investigative avenue that we are following up on, but we can't say that definitely at this point. Including Miles Sanderson's, 19 people have been injured in the attacks, which span 30 identified crime scenes, official says. Their medical conditions were not released. With the discovery of Damon Sanderson's body, she said the number of deaths was 11. The identities of the dead were not released by police Monday, but Blackmore said that none of them were infants or children. The youngest known victim who died was born in 1999, she said, and both men and women were killed. Investigators believe some victims may have been targeted and others may have been attacked at random, Blackmore said, but an investigation is ongoing. And the 10 people who died before Damon Sanderson's body was found, investigators believe all were stabbed, but were working to confirm that, Blackmore said. Miles Sanderson may have been spotted in the city or Regina, after a vehicle that was being sought was seen in the city, official officials have said. This is the most recent credible information we have, but it also quite stale. Regina Police Service Chief Evan Bray said, and so we can't say or certain for certain that he is in the community, but we are operating as if he is. Police said that Manu and the investigation into the killing is the highest priority. Canadian Prime Minister Justin has called the attacks shocking and heartbreaking, and said Monday that his thought and the thoughts of all Canadians are the victims and their loved ones. This kind of violence, or any kind of violence, has no place in our country, Mr. Prime Minister said. For fear, death in private jet mystery as plane crashes into Baltic Sea. Four people are feared dead after a private plane crash off Latvia on Sunday night in an incident that led NATO to scramble jets to follow its Arctic course. The Australian Resistor Xenia 551 was to have been carrying 4 passengers, according to a flight plan. Latvia Civil Aviation Authority said in a statement Sunday. Yet those sent to inspect the jet could not see anyone in the cockpit, raising question about what might have happened in the lead-up to the crash. The aircraft was flying from Spain to Cologne, Germany, but it appeared to change course with air traffic controllers unable to communicate with the crew, the statement said. The aircraft belonged to German businessman George Griezmann. His company, Quick Air, confirmed Monday, according to Reuters. The company, which provides jet charter services, did not say whether Mr. George or any of his relatives were believed to have been on board. Quick Air did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The jet took off Jerv in southern Spain at around 12:56 p.m., according to the Flight Radar 24 website. It appeared to turn at Paris and against at Cologne before it flew out over the Baltic and passed in the Swedish island of Gotland. Hours after its departure, it was listed on the flight tracker as swiftly losing speed and altitude. We have learned that the plane has crashed in the ocean northwest of the town of Ventspils in Latvia. A spokesperson for Sweden Rescue Services said it has disappeared from the radar. German and Danish warplanes were sent to inspect the aircraft as it passed through their airspace, but they were unable to make contact, said Johnson Wallstrom of the Swedish Maritime Administration. They could not see anyone in the cockpit, he said. A patch of waste and an oil-like slick were spotted near the crash site. Latvian Search and Rescue head Petrit told Latvian television, adding that no passengers were found. The Search and Rescue Service did not immediately respond to a rescue for comment. Man who stole the plane and threatened to crash into Walmart makes first court appearance. Man who stole plane and threatened to crash into a Walmart makes his first court appearance. 29-year-old Corey Patterson was denied bond in court today. He faced charges of grand larceny and terroristic threats after police say he flew a twin-engine plane for more than 5 hours. Now there are growing concerns over security at non-commercial airports. Experts say there is a lack of security and regulation.
We didn't have time to react.
Okay, did you say you saw it?
Liz Truss wins race to be the next UK leader and succeeded scandal hit Boris Johnson. Truss, who beat former Finance Minister Rishi Sunak to be elected the leader of the ruling Conservative Party, inherits a country facing a dire winter energy crisis, widespread strike, and economic recession. London, Liz Truss will be Britain's next Prime Minister after she was elected leader of the ruling Conservative Party on Monday, ending a race to succeed the scandal-tarnished Boris Johnson. Truss, 47, has been Foreign Secretary and was the clear front-runner. She clinched victory by appealing to the right-wing party faithful as a tax-cutting, anti-woke candidate who would take a hard line on post-Brexit dealings with the European Union. She inherits a country facing a dire winter energy crisis, a widespread strike, and economic recession, as well as a long-term question about the erosion of its cherished public services and its status as a world power after Brexit, though issues were largely absent from this discussion in the two-month leadership race, in which she defeated the former Chancellor of Exchequer or Finance Minister by 57 to 43% in the final runoff. That is a small margin. Then opinion polling has suggested that her supporters may have hope for. As leader of the country's largest party, she will be appointed Prime Minister by Queen Elizabeth II at Balmoral Castle in Scotland on Tuesday, a break from tradition for the aging monarch who has always performed the royal duty in London. Truss, addressing a crowd of conservative activists and lawmakers at an announcement event in the capital, joked that the lengthy leadership race was one of the longest job interviews in history. Her victory means she will become the country's third female leader, after Margaret Thatcher and Theresa May. Johnson announced his resignation in July when 6 months of rolling scandals culminated in a critical mass of his own lawmakers abandoning him. Most of Britain's 67 million people had no say in Truss' accession. Instead, she was chosen by the party of 180,000 members who are 75% white, skew older, wealthy and male, and lean to the right of Britain political spectrum. Truss does not appear to be a hugely popular impulse of the broader public, and she was not the top choice of her party's lawmakers, but she was the favorite of its members. The next general election might not be until early 2025. In 2025, polls give the opposition's Labour Party large leads over the Conservative following the acrimony around Johnson Falls. Labour leader Keir Starmer congratulated Truss in a recorded video but added the change we need in Britain is not a change at the top of Tory party, referring to the Conservative Party by its centuries-old nickname. Top of Truss' priorities will be the country's cost of living crisis. Skyrocketing bills for food and energy, household electricity and gas bills are set to triple. Fears of blackouts this winter and inflation that has sent real terms wages falling. Millions of people may face the choice between heating their home or feeding their families, while many small businesses say they will fall unless the government takes actions. Truss has promised to announce her plans on the issue this week. In her acceptance speech, she vowed tax cuts and said, "I will deliver on the energy crisis." But tackling the crisis is doubly hard because her party is bitterly divided over what to do about it. Johnson assembled a coalition that agree on one issue, Brexit, said Anna Menon, the director of the UK in a Changing Europe think tank. That Big Ten covers lifelong middle-class Tories. Tories in the southern countryside who may want a small state and lower taxes. Two party newcomers from the traditionally labouring voting north, who generally favor more investment in public services. The party is so divided on the mainly issues that matters to people now that it's going to be problematic. Menon said the only issue that matters is the economy. Trying to unite those factions is Truss, a political chameleon who supporters say has been nimble and pragmatic enough to adapt her views and whom crisis decry as opportunistic. She was born in Oxford to a math professor father and a nurse mother whom she described as left-wing. As a student of Oxford University, she supported the centrist liberal Democrats and advocated such positions as abolishing the monarchy and banning nuclear weapons. After she switched to the Conservatives, she was elected to Parliament in 2010 following several unsuccessful attempts. In 2016, she voted to remain the EU in the Brexit referendum that put her on the liberal and losing side of political and cultural war that has raged ever since. However, she has since switched sides, often displaying the zeal of convert that seems to have convinced the party faithful. She's loyal, she's honest, and I'm sure she delivered what she said she would deliver. And I trust her 100%. Said Andra Andino, 52, sporting an Enlist We Trust T-shirt outside the Central London Conference Centre where the results were announced. Tim Bell, a politics professor at Queen Mary University of London, said Truss woo the Conservative grassroots by telling them what they want to hear and pretty much only what they want to hear. She had tried to burnish those right-wing credentials further by imitating the divisive Thatcher wearing similar outfits and posing for a photo op in a tank. Few, in any pundits regard Truss as a Polish orator, and she has become known among critics as overly rehearsal by prone to gaffes. Yet she emerged as the favorite and natural her heir to succeed Johnson. Still believe still beloved by many of the right, even if they accept it was time for him to go. In her speech Monday, she paid tribute to Johnson as my friend. Johnson quickly repaid the compliment on Twitter, saying Truss has the right plan to tackle the cost of living crisis, unite our party, and continue the great work of uniting and leveling up our country. Truss has stints as Minister for the Environment, Justice and International Trade, and most recently as Foreign Minister, giving her an opportunity to polish her no-nonsense image in dealing over Brexit and Russian invasion of Ukraine, where Britain has been a key and valued ally of Kyiv's defensive right. That is unlikely to change with Truss at the helm. Although her focus will almost certainly be on the domestic crisis, granting her elevation to the top job. Hey guys, my name is Gracie and you're watching Gracie Review. And we will continue with these tips until you get a 10 in English. So today I'm going to show you guys when is the best time to study to learn English in the day and what food would help your brain to function 100%. Okay, sounds good? Let's start. 4 types of foods to support memory. If you're feeling forgetful, it could be due to a lack of sleep or a number of other reasons, including genetics, level of physical activities, and lifestyle and environmental factors. However, there is no doubt that diet also plays a role in brain health. The best menu for supporting memory and brain function encourages good blood flow to the brain, much like what would you eat to nourish and protect your heart. Research is finding the diet may help keep aging brains sharp, and a growing body of evidence links foods such as those in the Mediterranean diet with better cognitive function, memory, and alertness. Strengthen recall by adding these foods to the rotation. Eat your veggies. You're not likely to forget this message. Getting adequate vegetable, especially cruciferous ones, including broccoli, cabbage, and dark leafy greens, may help improve memory. Try a kale salad or substitute collard greens for a tortilla in your next sandwich wrap. Broccoli stir fry also is an excellent option for lunch or dinner. Be sweet on berries and cherries. Berries, especially dark ones such as blackberries and blueberries, as well as cherries, are a source of anthocyanids and flavonoids that may support memory function. Enjoy a handful of berries or pit cherries for a snack. Mix into cereal or bake into an antioxidant-rich dessert. You can reap these benefits from fresh, frozen, or dry berries and cherries. Get adequate omega-3 fatty acids. Essentials for good brain health: omega-3 fatty acids or DHA in particular may help improve memory. Seafood and fatty fish, including salmon, salmon, and bluefin tuna, sardines, and herring are some of the best sources of the omega-3 fatty acids (DHA). Substitute fish for other meats once or twice a week to get a healthy dose. Grill, bake, or broil fish for ultimate flavor and nutrition. Try salmon tacos with red cabbage slaw. Snack or sardines or enjoy stirred tuna on salad greens for dinner. If you don't eat fish, discuss other food options or supplementation with your doctor or registered dietitian nutritionist. You can get DHA omega-3 fatty acids from fish oil, seaweed, or microalgae supplements. Work in walnuts. Well known for a positive impact on heart health, walnuts also may improve cognitive function. Snack or on a handful of walnuts satisfy, to satisfy midday hunger. Add them to oatmeal or salad or for crunch or mix them into a vegetable stir fry for extra protein. While there is no guarantee that these foods will help you remember where you put your keys tomorrow, over time they can support lifelong good health. Russian sentenced a prominent journalist to 22 years in prison on treason charges. A Russian court on Monday sentenced a former journalist to 22 years in a high security prison on 2 counts of treason, signaling a new level of repression against the free press in Russia and provoking an outcry in the journalism community. Even 32, a former defense reporter for the Kommersant and Vedomosti newspaper, was arrested in July 2020 on his way to work in Moscow and accused of disclosing state secrets to representatives of foreign intelligence services. 2 months before his arrest, he had quit his job in the news media to become an advisor to the head of Russia's space agency, Roscosmos, but the agency said the charges related to his work as a journalist. The severity of the sentence, announced in a statement by the Westmany court in Moscow, provoked a furious response. On Tuesday, where Mr. Safarov launched his career and became a star defense reporter, boldly chose to print a letter of support for Mr. Safarov on its front page, saying that its staff members remember it every day that they couldn't help. We haven't heard any public proof of your guilt, the letter addresses to Mr. Safarov's current residence in the infamous Lefortovo prison in Moscow. Said, we are confident in any other situation you would get acquitted, the letter said. We are waiting for you, it added. A business daily that has striven to become Russian newspaper of record, the Krasman is owned by Alisher, a businessman with links to the Kremlin. The newspaper has walked a fine line between preserving a degree of independence and avoiding the fate of other Russian publications that have been shut down under political pressures of the government. In a highly secretive case, Russian prosecutors said Mr. Safarov has disclosed state secrets about Russian arms sales to a journalist who worked for the Czech Republic Foreign Intelligence Arm. According to his lawyer, he was also accused of sharing unspecified secrets about Russia's involvement in the war in Syria with the political scientist from Germany, according to even his lawyer. Mr. Safarov denied the accusations, saying that his report reporting had relied on information only obtained from sources available to the public. He refused to enter a plea deal with prosecution, his lawyer said. The sentencing sent chills through the Russian journalism community, which has been under heavy pressure since the government outlawed the publications of anything that deviates from the Kremlin line on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Another member of Mr. Savinor's legal team said that the case had a colossal cooling effect on journalists in Russia, especially those covering defense and the military-industrial complex, and that Mr. Savinor's defense team would file an appeal. Mr. Savinor said that the defense team believed that apart from trying to send a message to Russian journalists, the government was seeking retributions against Mr. Savinor for revealing Russia's plans to sell fighter jets to Egypt. Soon after Mrs. Savinor published an article in 2019 about $2 billion deal, the United States threatened to impose sanctions on Carol. Mr. Smirnov and Mr. Pavel both fled Russia in 2021. After being involved in Mr. Savinor's case, a third lawyer, Dmitry Talantov, was arrested in June and charged with spreading false information about the Russian army. At the end of 2022, President Vladimir Putin said that Mr. Savinor's case has nothing to do with his journalistic work and that no one could be charged with treason for using publicly available information. It cannot be allowed, he said. A Russian human rights lawyer said that he could not find any precedent for such a harsh sentence on charges like Mr. Savinor, calling it a savage, demonstratively cruel punishment corresponding to the current state of Russia. Judge order for Trump special master is deeply flawed, legal experts say. Analysts said that Judge Aileen Cannon's ruling will be difficult for federal investigators to carry out, but an appeal could slow the Justice Department probe to a likely crawl. A judge order approving a special master to reveal documents the FBI took from former President Donald Trump's Florida home is a deeply flawed and unworkable mess, a legal expert told NBC News on Tuesday. U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon on Monday granted Trump's request to have a special master review all the evidence seized last month from his Mar-a-Lago estate and temporarily block parts of the Justice Department's investigation into the trove of top-secret and classified documents retrieved by federal agents. Cannon, 41, a Trump appointee, also put forth legal defense arguments that Trump's team had made, among them that the former president could suffer reputational injury if the Justice Department indicted him. Legal experts blast the overall ruling and question how it could be implemented, while warning that an appeal by the government could drag the investigation out further. I think it's a corrupt decision. I think it's a special law for Donald Trump by Trump appointee, and it is more from precedent. It's supportable and in law will not be approved of by anybody who isn't a Trump fanatic, said Paul, a Department of Homeland Security official under former President George. It is supremely disappointing because up until now the courts have been the last bulwark against excess, and this decisions suggests that at least some of Trump's judges put loyalty to the man over loyalty to the rule of law, and that deeply unfortunate, said Rosenworth, who was senior counsel to Ken Starr, the independent counsel who investigated President Bill Clinton. Bradley Moss, a lawyer who specialized in national security issues, said that Cannon's decision is not well founded in any law or legal theory, and that it includes far better advocacy for the former president's legal positions than anything his actual lawyers put forward. My view is that at a minimum, the Justice Department is going to have to appeal. That the part of the order that temporarily stopped the Justice Department from using the seized documents to proceed with its criminal investigation, Moss said. But he cautioned an appeal is no easy path. The 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, which would hear any appeal in this case, has taken a particular conservative turn, and the U.S. Supreme Court is 6-3 in favor the conservatives. Moss said it's not a foregone conclusion they would win on appeal. Brandon Van Crack, a former counter-espionage prosecutor who worked on special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, said that there would be a strong impulse to appeal, especially because the criminal investigation by the Justice Department and the damage assessment by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence are likely going hand in hand and can be bifurcated. Part of Cannon's order gave the Office of the Director of National Intelligence permission to continue its review of documents for a damage assessment process the Justice Department has been playing a role in. The criminal investigation is informing the intelligence investigation, Van Grack said, adding the Justice Department investigators have likely been doing fingerprint searches on the classified document to determine who handed them, a key step in determining how much they might have circulated. Cannon ruling could also block investigators from asking witnesses about who had access to the documents. It will delay and impair the investigation, Van Grack said. They won't have complete information. Legal experts also took issue with Cannon, saying the special master should review the documents for potential executive privilege claims instead of limiting the examination to traditional attorney-client issues. Trump's team has argued that a special master, essentially a neutral third party appointed to the court, was necessary because they couldn't rely on the so-called filter team the Justice Department used to separate out privileged documents, saying they couldn't be expected to trust the self-restraint of currently unchecked investigators. The Justice Department contains executive privilege isn't up for debate because the seized documents don't belong to Trump. He's no longer the president, and because he's no longer the president, he had no right to those documents, Justice Department lawyer Jay Bratt told the judge at a hearing last week. Rosenwig agreed, calling it absurd that a special master should be searching out potential executive privilege issues. I don't think there is a good roadmap. Nothing's there, nobody of law on executive privilege for a special master. I don't know how a special master would proceed, which means inevitable delay and dispute, he said. Even some of Trump's former allies backed Cannon ruling. The opinion, I think, was wrong, and I think the government should appeal it. It deeply flawed in a number of ways, former Attorney General William Barr said in an interview with Fox News. I don't think the appointment of special master is going to hold up, and even if it does, I don't see it fundamentally changing the trajectory. I don't think it changes the ball game so much as maybe we will have rain delay for a couple of innings. Barr said. Barr said the 11th circuit could expedite the appeal, but he acknowledged it could take several months to straighten out. NBC News legal analyst Chuck Rosenberg, a former U.S. attorney, said there seems to be a trade-off between appealing a poorly reasoned judicial decisions on one hand and further delaying a part of their investigation on the other. In the end, the government will very likely to get to which is entitled one way or the other, but the path forward looks a bit murky. Trump's lawyers and the Justice Department are expected to submit a joint filing to the judge naming potential special master by Friday. George Washington University law professor Stephen Stolberg, a former Justice Department official, said whoever is chosen is going to have an incredibly high security clearance now or obtain one in very short period of time. He also predicted that whoever gets picked would be able to work fairly quickly. Stolberg, who has worked as a special master, said the reason judges generally want special master is that they want a review to be done quickly and thoroughly, and they don't have the time to do it themselves. For some legal analysts, the unique situation unfolding in this case means it's impossible to have a clear view of the road ahead. Kyle McLennan, the executive director of National Security Counselors, a nonprofit law firm called the Judge Order, a novel interpretation of the law, making it impossible to know how the case will shake out. The word unprecedented gets thrown around a lot, especially in this case, but this case is literally unprecedented. Ms. McClanahan said it's not about anything that we ever dealt with before. As a result, using the past to inform what will happen next is a crapshoot. Canadian police continue to search for a mass killing suspect and urge caution. Miles Sanderson's remained at large Tuesday as police said he was not on James Smith Cree Nation, where many of the victims were found Sunday. Residents of Canada's Saskatchewan province were urged to stay cautious Tuesday as one of two suspects in Sunday mass killing remained at large. A sighting of Miles Sanderson's 30 was reported on the St. James Smith Cree Nation north of Melfort, but the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or RCMP, said he was nowhere to be found, and investigators didn't believe he was there Tuesday evening. As the whereabouts of Miles Sanderson remain unknown, the emergency alert is active for the entire province, and we continue to urge the public to take appropriate precautions, the RCMP said in a statement Tuesday. The alert was issued after 10 people were killed and 17 were injured in one of the worst outbreaks of violence in Saskatchewan history. The victims, some of whom have been identified, were found on the James Smith Cree Nation, and in the village of Weldon, authority says. On Monday, Assistant Commissioner Rhonda Blackmore, the commanding officer of this Saskatchewan RCMP, said at a news conference that the cause of death hadn't been established. We believe the victims were stabbed, but that is still being confirmed, she said. After the violent Sunday morning, police quickly named Miles Sanderson and Damon Sanderson, 31, his brother, as suspect. They have said why. Police said Monday that Damon Sanderson had been found dead on the James Smith cremation of unspecified injuries. A vehicle associated with the duo, a black Nissan, broke with Saskatchewan plate 119 MPI, remain unaccounted for. Of the 17 people injured in Sunday attacks, 10 remain hospitalized Tuesday, 3 of whom were said to be in critical condition, according to the Saskatchewan Health Authority. Among the deceased who have been identified was Earl Burns, a veteran. Said in a statement that it has sent sincere condolences to his survivors. The death of Lana Head, 49, was confirmed to the Canadian Broadcasting Company by her former partner, Michael Brent Burns. He also left behind 2 adult daughters. Gloria Burns, 62, worked at the James Smith Cremation Health Clinic and was responding to a crisis call when she was killed, the CBC report. The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations planned a news conference about the attack Thursday. Chief Bobby Cameron of the Federation said in the statement that the attacks have caused widespread unease, stress, and panic. We are pleading to all of the people of Saskatchewan to share any relevant information you may have. He said, someone out there knows something. We beg you to come forward for the sake of the families and communities and share that information with the authorities. Mystery of woman who went to ER and vanished 32 years ago solved. Myrtle Brown went to a hospital in Brooklyn in 1990 and was never heard from again. Her family was finally able to hold a virtual memorial for her. Ebony Brown remembers the day her mother, Myrtle Brown, went missing. It was 1990, and she was 13 years old. That May, Myrtle Brown was in New York visiting her best friend, and when her purse was stolen along with her epilepsy medication and identification, she told her family she was not feeling well and went to the emergency room at the Kings County Hospital in Brooklyn to get a medication refill. She ended up going by herself, Ebony Brown said, and then that was the last moment, we ever heard from her. For weeks, Ebony's grandmother and family members visited local police, prison, and hospital, but found no answer. I never thought she passed away, Ebony said. I thought maybe she just wanted something different, maybe out of life. I didn't know, to be honest. I was just confused and sad. Nearly 32 years later, in April, Murder Brothers Rob Brown was watching NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt when it aired a profile of the cold case squad at the New York City office of Chief Medical Examiner, led by Dr. Angela Soler, Assistant Director of the team managers. The team managed nearly 1,250 unidentified person cases, most of them tracking back decades, many to the 90s. Within the report, Brown spotted a picture of a missing person poster of a facial reconstruction, a tool used by the team to draw public attention to cases by recreating facial features via a clay model. I saw a young lady that could be or could not have been my sister, he said, and I said to myself, wow, I wonder if that could be her. 2 days later, Brown and his wife called the medical examiner office, and Soler and her team began working on Murder Brown case. I took a look at the reconstruction and noticed, okay, I'm probably looking for a middle-aged black woman, Solar said. It all matched with what the family was telling us, and we were also informed that she went missing in May of 90. So I knew exactly where to start my search. For nearly 2 months, Solar reviewed over 2 weeks of records of unverified unknowns or missing people with a potential name that has not been verified or confirmed. She started her search from May 1999 until she found what she believed was a presumptive match to Myrtle Brown on May 17, 1990. The unidentified person in the recreation was not Myrtle. In this instant, the contextual information included the date that she passed away. Solar said she passed away in Brooklyn, which matched the family telling me that she used to receive medical care in Brooklyn. She had a presumptive name that matched, a presumptive date of birth that matched, and the family had given some medical information about their missing loved one that also matched what was in the case file. Robert Brown then received a call from Solar that he had been waiting for 3 decades. Robert, I think we found your sister, Brown said, recalling what Solar told him. I said, what? She said, I think we found your sister. Ebony was also on the call as Solar shared the information that she found in the case file. She asked if she could send them a photograph of the deceased person to confirm it was Myrtle. She sent a photo to both of us, and it took me a second to realize that it's her. Robert said. Ebony said the photograph took her back 30 years. As soon as I saw the photo, you knew it was her, he said. Myrtle, who was 35, was never registered or admitted to Kings County Hospital. The family learned that she had been waiting in the emergency room when she had a Caesar and died. The only information Myrtle gave to the hospital was her name and the date of birth. The Browns were able to hold a virtual memorial for Myrtle and Robert, and Ebony said their family was at peace finally knowing that what happened to their beloved sister and mother. Solar said he hoped the Browns' experience would encourage other families with missing loved ones to step forward. Even though it didn't end up being the individual the recreation was based on, it helped us resolve a case, Solar said. It made a difference, and that's the whole point, is to get people to stop and think for a moment and follow through and give us a phone call. Hurricane Ian heading towards Florida as expert warns this is no joke. Wow, this is huge. Hurricane Ian is swirling towards Florida after making landfall in Cuba as a powerful Category 3 storm, and it could hit the U.S. state with a wind speed of up to 140 miles. And evacuation orders have been issued for over 300,000 people in Tampa Bay along Florida west coast, amid fears the hurricane could be upgraded to a Category 4 system as it intensifies while crossing the Gulf warm waters. The storm made landfall early on Tuesday in Cuba, Pinar del Rio province, while the U.S. National Hurricane Center said the island's west coast could see as much as 14 feet of storm surge. Cuba is expecting extreme hurricane force winds, also life-threatening storm surge and heavy rainfall. Hurricane Center senior specialist Daniel Brown told the Associated Press officials set up 55 shelters, rushed in emergency personnel, and took steps to protect crops in Cuba's main tobacco growing region. After passing over Cuba, Ian is forecast to reach Florida as early as Wednesdays as a Category 4 storm.